I don't think you can be happy without money.
The good use of money, the proper use of money, unquestionably does lead to happiness. It gives us time, it gives us security.
It does strike me that money is more the fuel for the things that will bring happiness, influence, impact to the world.
It will bring us success and happiness. And that's the formula for business. You use the money that you have to grow your business.
Why is that when billionaires will come on the show, they want to avoid talking about money?
Money can lead people to evil, and that's wrong.
What the hell is going on?
We need to think about it. What makes us happy? What are our values?
Carl, Jack Canfield wrote this about your book. He says it's a real page turner, something everyone can apply to their life. I promise if you read this book, you'll learn how to be happier. How did you get Jack Canfield to leave you a review on your book?
Well, I was having a conversation with Jack himself, and he said, "My wife got mad at me." And I said, "Well, why?" He said, I kept her up all night reading the book." He said, "I couldn't put it down." And I thought, well, that's a really great recommendation. And Jack Canfield, of course, is the writer of Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's a super man, super nice man.
And it's kind of funny that he's reading a book about happiness while his wife gets upset at him because a wise man once said, it's better to live in the corner of a shack than in a mansion with an unhappy wife. So it's just kind of funny that he put that together there.
Yeah, I would say to do both, have it both ways. Happiness is not something either or. And I know that as an entrepreneur, I've made that mistake. It's all about business, and it's not all about business. Why are we in business? Why do we do the work so hard and dedicate ourselves to our dream business? It's because we want to be successful and happy, not just successful, and not just sort of happiness in the woods, but happiness in real life, and develop and work on your happiness while we're working on our career, while we're working on our business. The big mistakes I've made, some of that's why we can write books because we've got all these mistakes. I just focused on business all the time, 24/7. And that was not a healthy lifestyle. And my health suffered as many entrepreneurs do. And then I got smarter, and I realized that, friendships and pleasure, just pure pleasure, is too valuable to skip, and so I changed my, ways, and, I've been happier ever since, and I'm continuing to get happier all the time because happiness is all the time. It's the way we live. It's what we do, whether at work and creating a great business or also creating great families and great relationships and reading and playing and having pleasure. And pleasure is just too important to put off.
That's fair. I was listening to the All In podcast the other day, and David Freeberg mentioned that a lot of entrepreneurs get into business because they want to find the gold treasure at the end of the rainbow. And he says, there's no end to the rainbow. The rainbow goes forever. So you better enjoy the ride while you're on it. But at the same time, Carl, I don't think you can be happy without money. So how do you weigh the balance there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Money and happiness. We all know that money can't buy happiness, and that's true, but correct use of money, good uses of money, you know, buying a home, that's wonderful. That's gonna give us some happiness. Getting the education for our career or our business, learning about things. The good use of money, the proper use of money, unquestionably does lead to happiness. It gives us time. It gives us security. We can create a beautiful home. We can go on great vacations. And so money is really, very important. But don't misunderstand it. It's not the end of everything. It's a beginning. Use it for your values. Use it for the things that you love and cherish and want the most. Use it for your family, your home, all those great things.
It does strike me that money is more the fuel for the things that will bring happiness, influence, impact to the world. And you talk about proper use of money. And I had a pretty interesting monetary fiscal lesson just a few months ago. I set up a regular tithing to my church. And I put it off for a long time because I'm growing a business and I need to fill out the business. And I don't know if this is science, faith. I don't know what it is, but the very month that I started tithing to my church, my business grew almost double. It almost doubled in 1 month, and that just really shocked me. Carl, I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that before, but that was kind of an amazing counterintuitive result from tithing and donating money.
You make a couple of really good points there, I think, Mark. One, money is energy, it's a resource to be used. And if we apply that energy and that resource correctly, it will bring us success and happiness. And that's the formula for business. You use the money that you have to grow your business, but you can do the same thing to grow your life and your family and your friendships and so on. Now, you're talking about tithing to your church. I would suggest that what you're expressing there is your gratitude. You're grateful for what you have. And so I'm going to express that gratitude. I'm going to do something about it. And you decided to tithe for your church. And you can feel gratitude. And we talk about gratitude journals and all those things. And that's great. But the real thing about it is expressing it, doing something about it. And that was what happened with my book. I decided I would express my gratitude by bringing forward the, um, the bequests, the gifts I had in my will, and not wait until I died, but bringing it forward and giving to the people now, expressing the gratitude I had for them. And you can express gratitude in so many different ways, financially, of course, but time, love, tithing, a letter to a doctor or teacher that saved you or changed your life. Expressing is the big thing about gratitude. And that's not talked about too much, but I do cover that in my book, The Happiness Experiment.
Gratitude underrated, I would say. Gratitude is underrated because I don't think that you can have happiness unless you're grateful for what you already have. You're just always chasing the next thing. I was talking about this in a men's group this morning. We are going through this process of reaching out to those we may have wronged and trying to make it right. And some of this stories that these men were telling about reaching out to business partners, ex-girlfriends, people they wronged when they were on a drug or drinking binge. It was just really remarkable. And when you talk about gratitude that way, it kind of strikes me that probably we all have some hidden skeletons in our closet. And can you truly be grateful until you've cleaned out your closet of the skeletons?
I think that's a terrific point. It's a terrific point, and it's a parallel to expressing gratitude. Here you're expressing remorse, regret for bad actions. And we can feel those things, we can feel it, but as you're pointing out, it's time to do something about it. Write a letter, meet with somebody and say, "Look, I did wrong. I made a mistake," or, "Hey, I acted just plain wrong. I shouldn't have done this, and, I just wanna let you know that I feel bad about it. I'll never let that happen again, but I needed to get this off my chest. I needed to." I think that's a terrific exercise, and it has a parallel with expressing gratitude.
Yeah, making amends, making restitution so that you can just let it off. Let shake it off, as the great poet Taylor Swift says. Um, I have another question, and it's a little bit on topic, but it's a little bit off topic, Carl. I've had several billionaires join the show, billionaires with a B. And one of the things that I found is they don't typically like to talk about money all that often. Why that is in I don't know why it is. Why is that when billionaires will come on the show, they want to avoid talking about money? Why would you say that is?
Well, I think it's a multiple things. One, they don't wanna boast, and it could be boasted, "Look how much money I am, I'm a billionaire." I think, they're guarding against some people who are envious, and they don't want to get into that because there is a lot of envy in this world, as you well know. I think they can get a lot of hostility because they have wealth and they're not giving it away or something. Now, if you've earned your money through principles, through honestly, it's a matter to be proud, I believe. But if you're with a friend or somebody that you can talk to, like I could talk to you, I could tell you, I think privately, not on the air, but I'd talk to you about my money because I trust you because you admire money. You realize how money is obtained. It isn't just by stealing and some you provide real value as an entrepreneur. And for that, people pay you. And that's an honorable and a principled way of making money. So it's a ticklish subject, as we all know. Money is, it can be corrupt, and it can, money is the root of all evil. I don't think that's true. Money can be lead people to evil, and that's wrong. But money can also lead to great good. As your incident of like tithing 10%, that money's going to be going doing to good things for a lot of people, probably.
It better be. It better be, or I'm finding a new church, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But you bring up another interesting point, Carl, in something that is kind of new, I think, at least for me, in the world we live in. And there just seems to be an immense amount of unhappiness right now. I mean, just as we speak, there's Teslas all over the country that are being burned, firebombed. The media is celebrating it because down with that guy. We recently had the shooting of a healthcare CEO, and everyone's shouting, "Way to go, Luigi! You're that's one for the good guys." I'm like, he just gunned down a CEO in cold blood in the middle of New York. What the hell is going on? Have, what's going on right now? Like, if you feel empowered or feel like empowering people, they're going to go out and murder people in cold blood. You might be the bad guy, but somehow there's a movement for this. What's going on?
Well, let me first say, that's a huge question, and I don't know. But what I do believe at root, it's the absence of a life-serving, life-enhancing ideas. If people have the right ideas, and we know what they are, be honest, go to work, take care of yourself, be responsible, take care of your family. We know these basic ideas. And those ideas seem to have been corrupted, and I think a lot of it have come from very bad ideas, such as the ideas of Karl Marx, socialism and communism. I think those are awful ideas because they take away motivation, they destroy in entrepreneurship. So my what I advocate and would advocate, find the right ideas. Find ideas that are positive and uplifting, that are good for you and good for those that you care about, and practice those ideas and foster those ideas, promote those ideas, and I think there's gonna be a bit of a change, but, as you've observed, Mark, it's gotten pretty bad, but one thing we should never forget is how many really good things and good people there are in life too, and we can't focus on the negative all the time, and entrepreneurs don't do that. They focus on the positive, what can be done, what solutions there. And I think education, which I'm working on, and this is a subject for another time, I'm creating a great virtual university. It's called X Global University. It's going to be launched this year. It's going to have thousands of AI powered great minds from history: Socrates, Aristotle, Einstein, all the greats in history. They will be my professors, and they will teach in a thoughtful, engaging, respectful way. They'll answer your questions, they'll engage with you. It's quite miraculous. I'll tell you about that in another podcast if you like.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty fascinating to me because, we talk about why people are so unhappy and committing acts of violence and celebrating it publicly, which is just insane to me. But I think a big part of that is because of the upper level education that we're seeing. The college universities are just pumping out these kids that are just pumped full of socialism, and it's really kind of a sad, scary thing. So, not to mention they're learning skills that aren't actually getting them good jobs in tech and AI and robotics, like the stuff that's really going to drive the world forward. So, I mean, clearly there needs to be some sort of major reform within the university college system.
I think you've identified a root cause. One of the main causes is what's being taught in our great universities. I looked at some list of courses being taught recently. One, the end of capitalism, socialism in the future, abolish the police, and there's all this focus on sexual preferences, whether you're this or that, and it doesn't matter. These are the kind of things that are being taught in our schools at a huge cost. 20, 30, 40, 50,000 per year, hundreds of thousands of dollars for an education. And what are they getting for all that money? $1.5 trillion dollars of student debt. And it's just not working. And I don't know whether you can reform the great universities. And there are some great universities still, and there's some great departments within those universities. We should never forget the good. that exists out there. But you're right, it needs to be replaced, and one of my intentions with this great university is to provide an alternative which will be accessible anywhere in the world. It will be affordable, and it will not teach anything but life-serving, uplifting, true ideas. Remember the word truth? It seems out of fashion, but I will be teaching truth and true, and not bias, and no propaganda, none of that.
I mean, truth is kind of what brought me back to the church because, yeah, I had children. I'm like, what are they going to learn? What are we going to teach them? And then with the world is just full of shifting sand. We need some principles like love one another, in which to concrete ideas in. But man, it's a crazy world for sure. I'm curious, your book really lays out the foundation for happiness. And again, to me, I don't think you can be truly happy without if you're always worrying about money. So I think that the money is a piece, at least for me. What about education? What role does this educational system we've been talking about? What role does education play in happiness?
Wow, it's huge. In my organization, I used to read books and then share buy copies of the books for all of my staff and my executives, and then we'd all read the book and talk about it. We were a huge book club, and then we applied those ideas. So knowledge every day, an entrepreneur has to learn something, and as you learn and get others, your other executives, your colleagues get to learn too, the organization will grow and prosper. It's you raised something here, Mark, that there is a process in business. You plan, you lay out the plan, you think about things carefully, you execute the plan, and then if you do it right, your plan is good, and your execution is effective, then you're going to succeed and prosper. But it's the same thing with happiness. We need to think about it. What makes us happy? What are our values? What do we need to do to achieve those values, whether it be a home or a great career or money or friendships or romance? All those things that we want in life, and wanting is a key thing to happiness, what we want, and then thinking about and planning to achieve it, which is the same formula we use as entrepreneurs.
I'm just making a note here because that's important. And you talk about wanting happiness, but I feel like sometimes the things that I think that I want are not what I actually want, in which case I go to Chat GPT and I say, Chat GPT, this is what I want. Where am I off base? And it gets me back on track. So what's your process for focusing, locking in on what is really going to make you happy right now? Because to your point, a lot of times say, oh, if I just had another $100,000 in the bank, then I'd be happy. If I just had that girl, then I'd be happy. If I just had that car, that'd be happy. So like, give me a formula or baseline to figure out what I actually want to be happy.
Okay, so you want a simple formula. Okay, I'll put it in the mail to you, Mark. But that's a very long discussion. But let me see if I boil it down. Wanting is crucial. Keep the wanting fire burning. Whatever it is you love, whatever you care about, whether it's your church or your family or your work or friendships, keep the wanting in place. And I love a statement attributed to Ayn Rand where she said, "Imagine a heaven here on earth, and then don't just to dream of it, but make it happen." So want a heaven on earth, and in my heaven on earth, I have a beautiful home. I have friendships. I have family. I have books in my home. I have a gymnasium at home. So I've created my heaven, and so that's a big part of it. The other thing, as we all know, is purposes. You've got to have purpose in your life. Otherwise, you've got no reason for getting out of bed in the morning. But how do you do that? And there's all kinds of books and discussions on it. But basically, your purpose comes from your value. What do you really value? Do you value entrepreneurship, your own business? Do you value money? Do you value your family? Do you value a home? And then simply do the things that requires. And it's not a magic formula, but it is a formula. It's practical. And again, I know I have to plug my book, The Happiness Experiment. It explains that step by step because there's a workbook at the end of the book.
I like workbooks. I like workbooks. Alex Hormozzi's $100 million offers has the workbook. I like workbooks. So one of the things that I've thought about a lot as I grow my business and shift and try to make the right decision to get into the right lane is that I want to build a business. I want to build projects that I'm not necessarily passionate about, but curious about. Because You're not always gonna have the passion, right? I love my wife dearly, but there's some days where I just don't feel the passion, right? But or here's an example. Kobe Bryant is not gonna wake up at 3 a.m. every morning and be like, "I can't wait to practice these free throws. I'm passionate about free throws." No, but he's got a greater goal. He's curious about what it's gonna require. Um, and, there's so many different ways to make money right now, and there's things I'm passionate about that aren't necessarily gonna make me money, but if I can combine curiosity, skill, market, along with curiosity, I feel like it makes it much easier to push forward on it. It's not a struggle to wake up because 'cause I'm curious, I wanna drive it.
That's really, really important, I think, Mark. Finding the right niche for yourself, the right business opportunity, the right career. It ideally, it aligns with those things you value. And if you identify what you really value, what's really important to you. I happen to love management. I mean, this I just love management. I love Peter Drucker. I love management books. Maybe it's a little weird, but it's for me. So my purpose is to be a manager. And then I think, well, what do I want to manage? And that's when I came up to private career colleges. Education is a high value, management's a high value. So I'm pursuing things I love. Now, there's going to be down days and things that you just do the routine. Although with AI, you don't have to do the routine very much anymore. But there are those things, and that's where discipline, and just grit comes in, and that's necessary, and we all know that as entrepreneurs. But the joy at the end of the time, end of the day, whether it's a day or a week or a month or years, when you succeed and continue, and success is really an important part of happiness. They go together, success and happiness, or should ideally.
There's something you'd mentioned, just a moment ago as well, Carl. I'm kind of curious about your thoughts on this. You'd mentioned, motivating your team because let's face it, you're gonna build a big organization, you need your team on board, manage people, lead people, motivate people. It strikes me that we're going through a time of massive change, massive uncertainty. People aren't sure, are they gonna be replaced? Is it is my boss just gonna hire AI? Is there gonna be an automation that replaces me? Because the reality is there's gonna be a lot of that, a lot of it. People are expensive, we're unpredictable, we have bad moods, we get sick. Robots don't really do that. How would you see it as someone who's managed hundreds, if not thousands of people? How do you make your employees feel safe? How do you make your team feel safe in a time of massive change and uncertainty?
Well, you can't talk to 1,000 people, if you've got a large and I had 2,500 employees at one time. But you can communicate broadly today with emails and videos, and you maintain communication. And above all, you tell the truth. You tell the truth. You're authentic. You're real with them. You let them know what's going on. You don't make promises you can't keep, but do make promises and then keep them. And that builds loyalty. And I think that the fundamental thing is value them. If you really truly value your executives and your staff, and I loved my employees when I was working in the schools, I just loved them. I bought every single one of my 2,000 employees a Christmas gift, a thoughtful Christmas gift. And I thought about it long and hard and then ordered the Christmas gifts ahead of time. And it was always something, it cost a few $100s for everyone or each person but it was always very but I think one of the magic formulas of an entrepreneur is to value the people, the colleagues, the partners, the employees, the executives, what we work with. And if you do that, and then you act, Mark, it's one thing thinking, it's the other thing acting. Acting is integrity. You put into practice your beliefs and spend the time with the people. Whatever way you can. Check in with them every day. Sit down and have lunch with them. Spend a lot of time because it's those people that are going to make you great, successful, and even wealthy. And I know that's true of me. I didn't become wealthy all by myself. They help me, and that's one of the reasons why I did the prequests. I gave them their inheritance now, and I said, "Look, I'm so grateful. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. So here's a big bunch of money that's gonna make you happy."
I think the gift idea is fantastic. I love the idea of having a book club so you can pour into them, have a direct kind of a direct education because I think that's important. I tell that to my team. Listen, if you're committed to being excellent and leveraging the right tools. I will pay for your softwares, I'll pay for this, I'll pay for that. I wanna make sure that you're empowered to be relevant during this changing time. It's kind of the way that I've handled this. I also think, by the way, I was going to a party at a friend's house the other day, before we close down here, and I was like, I gotta bring a gift. I gotta bring a good gift to my friend. You know, he's 40 years old. And I decided I wanted to get him a book. And my wife's like, "That's a terrible gift. What are you getting him a book for?" And I'm like, "I don't want to get him a bottle of alcohol. That's basically saying, see you in an early grave, buddy. I'll give you a book and it's gonna feed you and water you for the rest of your life." The book was Atomic Habits, by the way. It's one of my favorites. But question number 1 here is A, are books a good gift? And 2, what's your favorite book to gift?
Oh boy, yeah, I'm afraid to say this, but I think your wife has it wrong. You have it right. I think taking booze to a party is stupid and thoughtless. But the right book for the right person at the right time is a hugely valuable gift. And Atomic Habits by James Clear, great book. That's one I cite in my book and I use, and I call them happiness habits, not atomic habits, but happiness habits. So I do quite a bit of work on that. But I think the right book, a thoughtful book, can be hugely it can change people's lives, the right book, and we know we've read a lot of books, and we can talk to someone and say, "Hey, this is the book that could really resonate with you, make a difference in your life," and that's a wonderful gift. It's a spiritual gift. It's not just a material book. A book is, of course, it's material, but mostly it's a spiritual thing, and I would recommend to entrepreneurs, Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive. It's just great, fabulous book. The other book for strategic planning, I would recommend Colonel John Warden's book, Winning in Fast Time. He's the most brilliant strategic planner that I know. It's a great book, Winning in Fast Time. And then, of course, my all-time favorite, novel is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and there's a lot for entrepreneurs in that book.
Love that, love that. If you're hungry to learn, we could start there, but definitely, definitely, I'm just gonna go ahead and pre-order it now. The Happiness Experiment, Carl's new book. Like, what else do you want? Be happy. Happinessexperiment.com. You can go check out the new book at happinessexperiment.com. Carl, very excited to dive even deeper into some of these topics here today.
Mark, it's been a real pleasure. I love entrepreneurs, and I love talking about them. Thank you.
We need more. We need more of them. Carl, thank you.